Hey, Brad Bob here, and today I want to talk about the perfect mix in retirement accounts. So the question came up, how much should I have in my Roth accounts? Roth IRA, Roth TSP. Um, how much money should I be putting in those accounts? By the time I get to retirement, what's the ideal amount to have in Roth versus tax deferred versus taxable? And that's a great question. And when it comes to financial planning, sorry, but the answer is it depends. But to have a significant amount in Roth assets would be great. So let's talk about, just go through some different thoughts on that. One is, one that I go to is if you have all your money in Roth TSP, Roth IRAs, how can you go wrong with that? Anybody that's followed me at all knows that I am a huge proponent of Roth IRAs, Roth TSP, Roth 401k, income tax-free money in retirement. But does that mean you want to have all of your money in that? And I would say, the answer to that is no, not necessarily, because then you can't take advantage of, some things. Because the idea of financial planning, investing, using tax shelters, is to be as tax efficient as you can, right? So let's talk a little bit. So as you're starting in your career, your income is probably lower than it's going to be later in your career. So at that time, probably Roth TSP, Roth IRAs, great way to go. Mid-career kind of depends. Earnings are rising, maybe it's still a good fit for at least some of your money. Late career, traditional TSP could be a better fit. Late career, you're probably at the top of the earnings scale as a federal employee. Not necessarily, but a lot of people I work with, law enforcement especially, they get up there to GS-15s and they're making $150,000, $60,000, $70,000. They're at their peak earnings, okay? So they may want to be putting money into traditional TSP at that time. So that's just a couple thoughts on, where you're at in your career. But regardless, federal employees are going to have a fair amount in traditional TSP anyway, right? Because you're matching the 5% that your employer puts into TSP. They put in the 1%, then you get another 4% of matching. So that 5% is going to go into traditional. So you will have some money in traditional TSP regardless, okay? That's the tax deferred money. Even if you put all your money through your whole career in Roth TSP. So everybody's going to have some traditional. But if you get to, if we think about it, and most federal employees I work with, they have the majority of their assets in TSP, okay? That's just the way it is. They put a lot, that's your retirement plan, so that's where people invest most of their money. So if you were to get to retirement and have, say, a third of your assets in Roth TSP/Roth IRA versus the other 2/3 in traditional, that's pretty good, okay? I'm not saying that's ideal, but yet that would be pretty good. Now, it'd be nice to have maybe 10% of your investable assets in taxable money as well. But yet, if you had a third of your investable assets in Roth IRA, Roth TSP, I think that would be pretty good. Now, if you were able to get half of your assets in Roth, tax-free income withdrawals, or income tax-free withdrawals, that'd be great. That would be really good. So yes, definitely want to have some money in tax deferred because there's a couple different reasons, all right? One is qualified charitable distributions, okay? When you turn 70 and a half, you can do qualified charitable distributions from a tax deferred retirement account directly to a charity, all right? And when you do that, you don't pay any taxes on the disbursement going to the charity. So in other words, that money you never pay taxes on. And that works out great for a lot of people once they turn 70 and a half. It also, once you turn 72, it applies toward your RMD, your required minimum distribution. All right. So that's important. Now another thing. So we just talked about early, late career. What having money in Roth assets does for you is it allows you flexibility. All right. That's one of the biggest things. So, in what I mean by flexibility, when you're retired, you're going to have income from your first annuity, maybe your supplement, Social Security, and then it's going to be investment distributions, okay, which are going to come from tax-deferred assets, taxable assets, or tax-free assets like Roth, possibly some HSA distributions, but so taxable, tax-deferred, tax-free. Now, let's say you're paying attention to your income in retirement, and you're looking at your tax bracket, where you're at in the tax brackets, and you're getting up to the top of that 12% tax bracket. Okay, you're getting your first annuity, you're getting your Social Security, and you're getting up there to the edge of that 12% after you take some distributions from traditional TSP. Okay, at that point, you may want to take some money out of Roth IRA because that's income tax free. Okay, so let's say you get up to the edge of that 12 and 22% tax bracket, and you need another $10,000. Well, instead of taking that out of tax deferred assets, where it would cost you an extra 10% in taxes, you could take that $10,000 out of a Roth IRA or Roth TSP, and now you don't pay any taxes on that. You avoid that additional 10% in taxation, okay? So that's what I mean as far as flexibility. Having money in a tax shelter that's income tax free gives you a lot more flexibility than you would have otherwise. If you have, now having some taxable assets gives you some flexibility as well, because taxable assets are taxed differently. But if everything is tax deferred, which is common, we do see this somewhat frequently with federal employees where all of their money is in tax deferred TSP. And the big issue with that is that you have no control over your taxation in retirement, okay? Because your only source to pull money from is going to be 100% taxable income, okay? So it's good to have money in those different buckets. And truthfully, I mean, the typical answer is the more money you have in tax-free shelters, the better off you're going to be in retirement, the more flexibility you will have. Now, it's impossible to have 100% there due to your matching, and you don't really want 100% there because there may be some things you want to take advantage of. For example, okay, so I've got conversions down here. Let's say that you retire at the age of 62, you decide to delay Social Security for a few years, all right? You want to let your benefit grow, which is common. A lot of people choose to do that. So let's say you retire and you were making $150,000. Now you're retired. Now your first annuity is $45,000 a year. Okay, let's just call it $50,000. You just took a $100,000 pay cut. Okay, so now your marginal income tax bracket is going to be probably quite a bit lower than what it was before you retired. So now that you're retired, you can possibly do some conversions while staying in the 12% income tax bracket. So you're taking some of your tax deferred money and moving that to a Roth IRA at that point and paying 12% federal income tax on it, versus while you're working paying 22% or 24% income tax on it. Okay? So having some money in tax deferred assets allows you to do that and pay lower federal income taxes when you retire. And that's just one example. Okay, there's all kinds of varying factors such as spouse's income, and how much money they're going to get in retirement, how much money you have in taxable assets and putting off dividends. If you have all kinds of factors that come into play. But that's one common scenario that we see. Somebody retires, their income may be lower for a few years while they're delaying Social Security. Therefore, it allows them to do conversions at a lower federal income tax rate. Now, a couple other things that having money in Roth assets will do for you, it is help you avoid higher tax. I talked about that a little bit. It's where if all your distributions are coming out of there, you're paying coming out of tax deferred shelters, okay, it could put you in a higher income tax bracket. It could force you to pay higher income taxes on Social Security. But another thing is IRMA, okay? And that's the surcharge that you pay on Medicare Part B. All right, not all federal employees take Medicare Part B, but a lot do. So if you have Medicare Part B, IRMA is a surcharge that's based on 2 years, your income. They take your income from 2 years prior, look at what that is, and then they determine what your premium is going to be for Medicare Part B. So, and I see single people getting in IRMA quite a bit, and then do have some married couples that have IRMA as well. If you have, two individuals in the household that worked, made good incomes, especially two high-earning federal employees, okay, they can easily get in IRMA and have to pay surcharges. So, having money in Roth IRAs excuse me, it's allergy season here in Illinois. But having money in Roth IRAs can help you avoid IRMA as well. So back to the original question: what is the perfect mix for having money in tax deferred assets versus how much money you have in Roth IRAs, Roth 401k, TSP? There is no perfect mix. Generally speaking, the more money you have in Roth when you get to retirement, the better off you're going to be, okay? You're not going to be forced to take distributions at age 72. Now you may have to move the Roth TSP to Roth IRA to do that, but then you won't have forced distributions. Money's going to pass on tax-free to beneficiaries, so that's a big deal to a lot of people. And then you have that pool of money that's income tax-free when you take it out, so that doesn't affect your income taxes at all. If you were to have a third of your assets in tax-free buckets, that'd be great. If you had half of it, that would be awesome. Now you don't want to have all your money there because, with some of these things we just talked about, being able to do conversions at a lower tax bracket, versus, paying 22, 24%, maybe even 32% federal income tax while you're still working. Something else like qualified charitable distributions, which allows you to deduct the money when you put it into traditional TSP, and then when you take it out and give it to a charity, you don't pay any taxes there at all when you gift it to a charity. So it's completely income tax free. But yet, if you don't have any money at all in traditional TSP, traditional IRA, you don't have that opportunity. So those are my thoughts on the mix of retirement accounts, how much money to have in Roth IRAs versus traditional TSP, traditional IRAs. It's good to have a mix of the two, and even to have some taxable assets as well, okay? But generally speaking, if you're not putting money in a Roth TSP, Roth IRAs, definitely consider it maybe a great fit for you. Thanks.